is you refrain from making any purchases, either in stores or online, to shun fast food, getting gas for a full day. I know. That look on your face says it all. You're right. It's so fucking.
We had the worst reading scores for 8th graders in 30 years. And nobody, not a governor, not a mayor, not a president, not a secretary of education is talking about it. We're all wrapped up. Look, in 7th grade, if I known that I could have said the word they and got in the girls' bathroom, I would have done it.
This is a huge Democratic Party problem. If you look at Democratic cities, they are terribly run. They have incredibly high taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing. Let me finish. I give you a chance. The cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago.
Bill Maher just accomplished the unimaginable. He persuaded Faird Zakaria of CNN to acknowledge that wait for it. In fact, some of Trump's measures benefited the United States. Yes, during real time with Bill Maher, the dramatic music and gasps from the CNN green room are played. Zachary writhed, laughed, and then gave in to reality, unintentionally engaging in journalism. It was more of a masterclass in irony than an interview, with Zakaria laughing at the catastrophe his network helped create and Maher's dropping truth bombs. Oh, it was lovely. Let's explore this beautiful instance of media candor. To ensure you don't miss any more takedowns, hot takes, or moments that make the mainstream cringe, hit the subscribe button before we do.
Trump wants to sell a visa. You get permanent residency. By the way, I looked this up, we are hardly the first country to do this. Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. But, I remember...
Yeah, we actually have a version of it. It's sort of called, I think it's called the EB-5 or something like that. So it's fine to do it. I actually think maybe it's because I'm, very patriotic. I think 5 million, we should be charging 20 million or, American citizenship is worth more than that.
It comes with Ukrainian minerals, though.
But what I love about Trump is he said, you get the green card, but with this, the gold card, you get extra privileges. like what? You get to vote twice?
I'm not sure about you, but this one truly caused me to pause and think again. Zakaria fared indeed. CNN's Faird Zakaria, who essentially arranges hourly Trump-bashing sessions, acknowledged that Trump's gold card permanent residence proposal is a smart move. Talk about a plot twist, This is the same individual that has attacked almost every action taken by Trump, including border fences and burger selections. But here's the real deal. It becomes even more juicy. Zachary went beyond simply acknowledging people when they deserved it. Oh no. He went one step further and jokingly proposed that the gold card's current astounding $5 million price tag be increased to an even more astounding $20 million. That's correct. He essentially stated, if you're rich and want to live in America, it better hurt a little more. This perspective was insightful coming from someone who frequently advocates for equity and inclusivity. Pun intended exactly.
Well, now you're speaking Chicago language. I'm for it, but it's part of a bigger package on immigration reform. It's been 42 years since the last one. So I'm not against it, but it's part of a whole package.
I should have mentioned this before, but let me just take a moment to say it now. Bill Maher is cunningly clever. The man truly possesses Jedi-level abilities when it comes to uncovering the truth. Take a look at how he persuaded two ardent leftists to acknowledge on television that they support the Trump administration's policies. It was similar to witnessing a magician extract confessions from hats. Ma didn't just happen to be in that situation. No, he established the tone by casually saying, hey, this one's actually smart, to introduce the gold card policy. And suddenly, like political dominoes, they followed his lead. Even the ultimate Democrat insider, Rahm Emanuel, spoke and acknowledged that such a program hasn't been put forth in a long time. Rahm's tenure in power leaves you wondering what his party was up to for so long. Were they simply too preoccupied with virtue signaling to think of anything that made sense? Now, for the most intriguing bit, watch as Emanuel Rahm attacks his own party's progressive ideas.
There is a general rule. I had this when I was mayor. Safe streets, strong schools, stable finances. Focus on those three things and your city's gonna be fine. We've gone through 5 years where people became way too permissive as a culture. They were all, which is why everything's up at Walgreens and CVS, and that is a disaster.
Yeah.
And our school, and I'll say this about our schools: I don't want to hear another word about the locker room. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom. You better start focusing on the classroom.
I agree. It appears that the left is beginning to turn against itself. To be honest, it's somewhat amusing to see. For some background, so you don't just dive, right in, Bill Maher presented a harsh statistic in real time. I mean, why is the mayor of Chicago receiving such a low approval rating of 6.6%? That means you ought to step down and reconsider your life decisions. No stranger to political spin, Rahm Emanuel, the former mayor, didn't even attempt to sugarcoat anything. Instead, he grinned and put his own party under the bus. He asserted that the left has grown so consumed with pointless cultural wars that the movement as a whole appears to be out of touch and downright poisonous. Then the tirade began. Oh, it was magnificent. He essentially pleaded with the woke audience to stop making every restroom and locker room into a battleground and perhaps shift their attention back to something that truly important like education. You are aware that fundamental math is read in classrooms. It was a mid-show mic drop encasing a rare moment of rationality. Rahm doesn't stop his tirade there. In fact, he was only warming up. It's ironic that it took a Democrat ridiculing his own party on HBO for someone to express what millions of Americans have been thinking for years.
We have the worst reading scores for 8th graders in 30 years. And nobody, not a governor, not a mayor, not a president, not a secretary of education is talking about it. We're all wrapped up. Look, in 7th grade, if I known that I could have said the word they and got in the girls' bathroom, I would have done it. Okay, we literally are a superpower. We're facing off against 1.4 billion people, and 2/3 of our children can't read 8th grade level. So no more about the lot. Wait a second, I'm on a roll for a second. No more. I don't want to hear.
I gave him the light. But
I don't want to hear another word about the classroom. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom until you tell me what you're going to do with the classroom.
I couldn't agree more.
Even though this entire interaction is hilarious, believe me, it is also quite depressing. We've allowed a small group of disillusioned ideologues to decide what is and is not good because we've grown so lenient and anxious to avoid upsetting anyone. Under the pretense of inclusivity, these activists have cherry-picked studies and promoted dubious data to support their invasive and frequently inappropriate goals, such as calling for access to women's restrooms and locker rooms. Let's be honest, we have blindly accepted the ideological Kool-Aid and thrown aside our common sense and core beliefs. Things that were once seen as clear-cut, such safeguarding women's safety and privacy, have been dubbed contentious. And for what reason would the loudest voices in the room be placated? Here's the bright side, though. Even prominent left-leaning individuals like Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria appear to be at last waking up. Perhaps it's Bill Maher serving as the hesitant voice of reason, perhaps it's Trump, or perhaps it's just the weight of reality setting in. Whatever the reason, this is a positive change, since someone is finally expressing what the rest of us have been considering all along.
No. This is a huge Democratic Party problem. If you look at Democratic cities, they are terribly run. They have incredibly high taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing. Let me finish. I give you a chance. Cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago. If you look at Democratic states, you go look at New York versus Florida. Okay, roughly the same population. The budget of New York State is twice that of Florida. What do they have? Streets paved with gold? I live in New York. I pay the highest taxes in New York. You get nothing for it. And I think that is the image people have of the Democratic Party. Lots of taxes, lots of regulation, but nothing gets done.
Hey,
and I
live in LA.
Naturally, Bill Maher persuaded them to reluctantly acknowledge that Trump was doing something correct. No, he took one more step. He had them turn on one another. It was similar to witnessing a political survivor where Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria pointed fingers across the ideological table in subtle and not-so-subtle ways. Listen to how they begin to blame one another and, to a greater extent, their own party for the complete mess we've been living through. Exorbitant living expenses, excessive red tape, small business strangleholds, inflation, and outrageous taxes that cause you to reevaluate your life decisions. The hits never stop coming. It seems like they discovered all of a sudden that perhaps we are the issue. This small implosion that we saw is poetic justice as well as political drama. The left is now consuming itself in a public display of remorse and recrimination after 4 years of lecturing everyone else on how to govern the nation. And to be honest, we are enjoying every moment of it. People grab some popcorn because you can tell the story is falling apart when even the people who created the mayhem begin to doubt the plan.
Democrats have to own this and realize the answer to everything is not more taxes, more regulation. People are fed up of that and they feel that it isn't working.
The Democrats, look, as somebody who produced the best graduation growth in the country, and we changed our high school.
You were a good mayor, I agree.
No, that's not the point. The point was we changed, but I'll take that. The point isn't the rules. The point is the results. And the party has gotten way too focused on what the rules are. And I do agree with you on this. We have made it impossible to function as a city or as a state.
This is the crucial query, then. Since CNN has been the focal point of anti-Trump discourse for the previous few years, did Faird Zachary have a revelation, or had he been silently nodding along while Biden was still making the decisions? It was a full-fledged campaign, rather than only comments. Panels with skews examined the echo chambers, which were packed with Democrats, and the one Republican present only for show. Of course, not to mention the news coverage that tended to be attack pieces and portrayed Trump as the antagonist of every story. Regardless of the setting, now that Zachary is having this public epiphany, it raises the question of where this energy was when Biden was dragging the nation into disarray. Was it political pressure, professional loyalty, or simply a calculated silence, because he has either been selectively silent or willfully blind, and neither of these options makes him look great? This unexpected realization is practical. Yes, but it also makes people wonder. Perhaps the truth isn't releasing him. Perhaps it's just now catching up with him.
An example of this example. Here, obviously in LA, it took a fire and a natural disaster to make you realize, you know what, that rule's not that important. In Pennsylvania, a bridge collapsed. All of a sudden we go, well, that environmental rule is just not important. We got to build a bridge. It's much more important. And I think the Democratic Party should take a look at and say, honest, like we did in 1994 with reinventing government. Everything is on the table. Nothing is safe. And let me just look at it and say, that's essential. Those two things get out of here. And that doesn't happen. And that's a fair criticism.
Maybe this is your next Democratic vice presidential candidate.
Indeed, that is what many of us have been shouting for years from the rooftops. The Democratic Party must quit playing political dress-up and start taking things seriously if they are to stage a genuine revival that appeals to regular Americans. This entails putting everything on the table, eliminating the diversions and fluff, and particularly the policies that go against common sense. Performative activism and pronoun arguments won't solve a flawed system. Working-class voters cannot be won back by focusing on ideological purity at the expense of practical concerns like job security, safety, education, and inflation. People are worn out. Instead of lectures, they expect results. They're looking for answers, not social experiments. Therefore, Democrats must abandon the virtue-signaling echo chambers and return their attention to what matters to actual people if they are serious about regaining their relevance. Due to the fact that common sense is not political, it simply hasn't been active for far too long.
You refrain from making any purchases, either in stores or online, to shun fast food, getting gas for a full day. I know. That look on your face says it all. You're right. It's so fucking...
Bill Maher eventually just put up a mirror, and the left wasn't pleased with what it saw. The fissures are growing as voices like Rahm and Zakaria break ranks. Truth, not theatrics, and perhaps a little common sense are the first steps toward atonement for Democrats. That concludes our discussion for today. If you liked it, please click the like button and subscribe to this channel for more engaging videos like this one. I appreciate you viewing, and I'll see you in the future video.